Hello, everyone. If you're seeing this, I just got back from Missouri Game Con, but sadly, everyone was following me because I told too many stories about all the stuff I got as a child that isn't worth 3 digits. So now I kind of have a whole bunch of people kind of like tracking me down. So I had to kind of take a detour, go through a few states and that, and I'm kind of hiding out in this dungeon right now. So if you're seeing this message, I'm still currently in hiding. But I still got a review for you, so hopefully you enjoy, and hopefully I'll see you back at home before next weekend. Anyway, I think I better move on to the next destination. I think that one person dressed up in the ultimate muscle costume is really trying to find me for some of those PS1 games. So I'm just gonna waddle on back here if you don't mind. Hopefully you buckle down in your airship, because there's going to be some turbulence as we land into Ark the Lad 2. Sequel to, of course, Ark the Lad 1, and continuing right where that game started off, except as a completely different character. But we'll get into that. So Ark the Lad 2 is a huge improvement over Ark the Lad 1. A lot of my complaints, having a world, town, NPCs to interact with, many of these things are addressed and are in Ark the Lad 2, where Ark the Lad 1 was very small, very linear in how its progression worked, and very little interaction with its world, thus not allowing you to really build much on it that easily. And it also being a significantly shorter game. But I do use the terminology built on Ark the Lad 1, because it most certainly is still using Ark the Lad 1's engine, definitely when it comes to combat. Now, to my understanding, the development of Ark the Lad 1 and 2 was that they kind of had a Persona 2 situation where there was more they wanted to do, but they kind of just split up in two. And being Ark the Lad 1 was an incredibly early PS1 title in Japan, it might have been in a option to try and get something to market first. You know, be out there in the lead, head honcho, you know, yeah. But that led to what would have likely been, ended up being a vastly shorter game. Whether that was the situation or not, I don't know personally. But either way, Ark the Lad 2 improves a lot of things. On top of having Ark the Lad 1's cast, besides two characters step out of being in the combatant party, everyone else returning. Now, you get Ark and his allies as moments in the story, and later up they join with the new main character, because the game does start off from someone else's perspective. You will start the game as Elk, a unfortunate lad who had his home village burnt and kidnapped, only to run away and have foggy memories of what the fuck happened, and wanting vengeance for what happened to his village. Elk would later get twisted into a certain events that would lead him down to pursue Ark in thinking Ark had destroyed his hometown, only to eventually find out the greater picture of what's going on in the world, team up, and go save the day. And this means, since you start as a different character and don't get Ark and his party until later, that means, of course, there's a whole new cast of characters that join Elk before you get Ark's cast. And just to throw as a fun note, if you do import your save data from Ark the Lad 1, you do carry a lot of stuff, like your character's levels, a lot of their gear, and if you did a certain character's side quest, you can continue in addition to that quest in Ark the Lad 2 only by importing your save data. But anywho, what I want to get on with the party members is, there's a lot of them this time around. You can make a party up to 5 combatants in a normal battle, not story shenanigans withheld. And on top of that, You also get the ability to recruit monsters via one of your new party members. And while this is a bigger detail, that's more meant for Arc Arena, Monster Arena. Which, if you are playing the English version like me, and you own it physically, you likely have that with your other discs of the Arc the Lad trilogy. But it is a spin-off game that's separated in the Japanese version, but it came bundled with 1, 2, and 3 in America. However, we didn't get Casino, which was another title that was sold separately that's compatible with Arc the Lad 2 in Japan. Anyway, that gives you a lot of different characters, both old and new, and with monster variety on top of that, you can build quite an interesting party. And almost every single character can at least use 2 types of weapons. I think there was like 1, 2... There's 3 characters in my current party that can only use 1 weapon. And I'm sure there's a few monster types that probably fall into that kind of degree as well. And I'm encouraging you to likely focus on just 1 type of weapon, because the characters can build up levels on their usage of a weapon, which of course improves their usability of such. On top of that, you do have magical levels, tier 1, 2, and 3. Higher tier involves further range, sometimes a little bit bigger hitting within that range for healing, buffing, debuffing, attacks, and that. Of course, all the usefulness. And with such a large cast of unique characters, you can certainly make some really weird builds. While talking about unique characters, there is a very, very, very unique character in a robot that gets to join you too, who doesn't level up at all, but instead he stockpiles EXP and can give that to other party members. Instead, he gets his stats via parts that he can equip to himself, thus to make himself better. So he's an interesting character that can just build up a bunch of EXP, and you can split amongst the party members. This can both be interesting and bad. Why bad? Well, some people, if you focus on a specific set of characters, you could see him not being as useful. But if you use a variety of characters, he could be useful for leveling up characters that are newly added, or getting stragglers you want to give a shot. Some boosts to, well, be useful in combat, because, you know, if you haven't used them since they were level 10, you're in your 40s, you know, you're like, I'm kind of curious, try, dump a bunch of levels, and there you go. Now they're a little bit more combat efficient. Now, if you played Arc the Lad 1, you're going to go through very similar beat. Combat is a tactics turn-based. You have HP, MP, very standard, nothing completely bizarrely unique. Other than the jumping, tactics games kind of differ in the ability to jump in combat. Now, jumping has always been kind of a flaky thing in certain tactics games. Some allow, you know, verticality, and others just, you know, you just move around on a chessboard style map and stab shit. Now, Arc the Lad, being 2D, is a top-down type tactics game that doesn't have a 3D-esque style or faking 3D-esque style. But it does still have jumping in it, where you can jump over characters or objects or enemies. And, of course, this gives you the classic stab in the back. Because, you know, as you know, in tactics games, stabbing in the back is always the best back, indeed. Now, early on in Arc the Lad 2, combat is really good in that, just like Arc the Lad 1. It's not too crazy or confusing, and it works all just fine in that. But something I did notice when playing through Arc the Lad 1 that is a little bit strange is as you progress through it, enemies become way more prone to fucking dodging and blocking your attacks. Now, I could not find out whether this was a walking design related thing, because as some long-term walking design fans might be aware, they have messed with games before. Alundra, in my opinion, is the worst one I've played that they've messed with the actual game mechanics with. Wasn't really a fan of what they did with Alundra, personally. So I don't know if they did something like that with Octolad 2, but either way, it gets way harder to hit fucking shit, and it can get really annoying as you get higher and higher level in the game. It really does get pretty fucking annoying, to be honest. But it doesn't detract from the ability of being able to still finish your fights. It just kind of feels like it makes certain fights and instances sometimes a little long-winded. When the game really gets annoying in that in that way, in my opinion, is way late in the game, where not only are they dodging and blocking a lot, but they're scaling level-wise way higher on you really quickly near the end of the game. Way quickly. And depending on how you do your party, you know, that may work in your favor, or you might just get caught off guard and just beaten side ahead. Which is why it probably is best for you to kind of just pick your favorite characters, because outside of the beginning, where there's a few moments of people getting split up, once everyone gets congested together, they don't really force you to use too many characters outside of a few situations, and those situations are usually just one character. So for the most part, it's not really a big problem to focus mostly on the desired characters once basically everyone gets conjoined together. Now, one of the biggest flaws in this game, in my opinion, well, it did a lot of improvements with having the big open world that you can explore compared to the first game, at least. You have many different locales. You can actually explore the world map, find a few side quests, and even a few little secrets in there. And there's even a few whale courses of puzzles in the game, which is just nice to have a little bit of a distraction sometimes off the beaten loot. But one of the things I think this game did, like, really strangely odd, is still have the same inventory system as Octolad 1. I mentioned there are many more characters, and on top of that, there's also a crafting system that's pretty limited, but if you get the goods that you need to craft certain shit, you can get some pretty powerful, awesome shit from the crafter, which just encourages you to hoard those items on top of anything useful. But you have a limited inventory while having a whole giant group of party members who all use different types of weapons, and you'll get different accessories that have different defenses, function, dodging, and such. And all I can say is, if you play a lot like H.C. Bailey, where you really get down to the weaknesses and ways to take advantages of resistances and things with accessories and elemental weapons and shit, boy, you're gonna have a hard time with this game, because there is a lot of fucking shit you can get that falls under that categories, and you're going to have a lot of trouble picking what you want to keep and get rid of and shit. It is a real shame, because there's a lot of shit I had to throw away that I would have rather kept, and there's stuff I kept that I'm not sure if it was going to be used for other things, or if there were going to be more crafting recipes. There won't be, by the way. Save your time in thinking that new ones will show up. There won't be. What you see at the beginning is all there is at the end. So, take that advice. But yeah, the limited inventory really sucks if you really want to keep a lot of interesting accessories and weapons and shit. And, of course, like I said, you could also get different monsters, and all different monsters use different weaponry. So if you swap out monsters a lot, you're going to swap out a lot of the weapons and equipment they have on top. Now, to be fair, monsters only use a weapon. They do not use equipment other than weapons. Which is a bit of a shame, because honestly, if they could at least use accessories, that could help your inventory some more. Because even with the characters I didn't use, I kept upgrading them and throwing accessories on them. At least that way I could keep some stuff via that way. But yeah, I have no idea why they didn't add a storage system in this game. So many of the things in this game seem so, like, counteractive towards the idea of your limited inventory space. It really sucks in weeks, man. I honestly don't know what the fuck they were thinking on that. Otherwise, you're looking at a pretty traditional JRPG tactics style game that isn't going to really blow any modern person's mind. But honestly, for its time period that came out in Japan, I'd say this was a pretty nice JRPG tactics game that really improved a lot on Octolab 1. Because Octolab 1, you know, if you've played several tactics games and you play Octolab 1 now, it's probably going to be like something you just like, how is this awesome? This is so basic, but it was... You gotta put your mind a little bit in its time to a certain extent. Sometimes when you're looking at these older games too, you gotta give them a little fairness, you know. Little bit of fairness, you know. Now, I didn't really encounter any bugs or anything that was noticeable or anything, though I did notice one thing that was kind of weird in one town where there was some gobbledygook on some of the towers on the far right of the town. They didn't block me from going anywhere or anything. It was just odd. This may have been a weeding error or something damaged on the disc, possibly. After all, it is a used disc that I got from a pawn shop a long time ago, to be fair. And it's not damaged significantly. And I did play this on my PS3, so... sometimes weird things like that can happen from discs with some slight damage to that. So I personally think that's what that was. Because I could not find any instances of anyone mentioning it. So I think that was something related to the disc. But I will throw that did happen to me, but it did not stop me, and it was out of the way. If I didn't go to the far right side of that town, I wouldn't have even noticed it, that. But other than that, I didn't really encounter anything super bizarre other than a few of the usual things that are pretty norm for PS3 playthroughs of PS1 games, where sometimes certain elements like certain layers of things were kind of odd with some magic in there, but nothing, again, breaking or anything that prevented me from getting to the end of the game. And boy, thought Octolab 1 was short, you're going for a long haul, especially depending on if you do a lot of side stuff. Because there is a lot of side stuff now. There are hunter guilds that add lots of side quests that involve either battling, puzzles, searching, finding, getting items, and that. There could be a multitude of tasks for you to do. But they will add lots of side content to do on top and give you money and shit. But the playtime is much more expanded in Octolab 2. You're going to average on about 60 hours or even higher if you're going to go for a lot of side stuff, or even, dare I say it, a completionist. But yeah, this is a long game, and what's really crazy to me is the fact that level system. I believe the max level for Octolab 1 was 60, I believe? Well, you want to know what the max level in Octolab 2 is? Is it 100? No. Is it 200? No. Is it 500? No. It's 999. That's how high level you can get. And I only had one character that was like 2 levels away from being 100 when I beat the game. Now, do you need to be that level to beat the game? Oh, no. No. You don't need to be that level, but it does make you wonder why. That's because of Monster Arena, the companion game that comes with our English collection. That game has a scaling system with enemies, so hence why you can level up that high. You can get really crazy ass fights in that. Oh boy. Oh boy, can you get some really fucking crazy fights in that. I'm already having flashbacks to the last few fights I tried. I need to get back to that game too. Still need to finish it, but it's still gonna be some work. Oh, the AI is so annoying. Yikes. But I will, on that topic, not go into the boss itself or anything, but just mention that the end with the boss is a really huge spike in difficulty. And honestly, I found the final boss really disappointing because it's just super fucking powerful. And if it wasn't for the fact of one of the secret killers that got improved from carrying over my input, from importing my save data of Octolad 1, which triggers a new quest line for the killer in Octolad 2, I probably would have spent hours trying to grind and strategize a way to win with all the other killers. It is quite a headache, and it seems pretty notorious to be widely disliked in that sense, which is a bit of a shame, because story-wise it's pretty epic, but we'll get into that in spoilers, obviously. But other than that, the very high dodge blocking will be your bigger problem until you get to there, likely. But with that, you might wonder, what would I give the value for Octolad 2? It being an older game and that, I think, and this is what I think $29 or $30 is an okay price for this. You definitely get your length in. Even though it's an older title, you definitely get a lot of your length. If you like tactics JRPGs, it's definitely a tactics JRPG, and it definitely has lots of things for you to do. So it's not super short, like Octolad 1, where it's kind of about whether it's even worth really playing, because I mean, it's fucking 8 hours. It's like 8 to 10 hours, and it costs a lot to get your fucking hands on it if you don't get the Japanese version. Oof, yeah, that can hurt. That can hurt. And while on that note, if you want to get this game physically, as a loose American disc outside the collection, or the Japanese disc, you're looking between, for the Japanese one, between like $15–$20, and for the ESRB American one, you're looking between $20 to $30 for a loose disc. And I could only find very few history things of sales of the loose discs for Octolad 2 specifically. I did find some for Octolad 3, but obviously that's Octolad 3, not Octolad 2. Otherwise, if you're going to get the whole collection of 1, 2, 3 and Monster Arena, you're looking at $100 minimum, and higher on bill quality, whether it comes with all its goods and stuff. So it can be a little hard to kind of justify getting the game, yeah? Well, on the upside, you can play this on PS3, Vita, and PSP, and it's $5.99 on PSN. So, if you don't mind the digital route, that's definitely a pretty good price for a decently long retro title. With that, let's get on to spoilers. So, basically, both old and new villains are trying to resurrect some kind of ancient god, which sadly ends up getting set loose on the world, and while the party is safely at the location where it's given life, sadly the rest of the world suffers great tyranny during their clash with it. And as I mentioned, the fight is very, very painful to your party. Very painful. I mean, let me put it this way. With the secret candle equipped with a unique item that you get for bringing forth items from Arc the Lad 1 that gives you infinite MP when wearing it. If it wasn't for that, I am absolutely sure I would have lost my first attempt at doing the final boss. I'm very sure. I'm not even sure how one would go about to fight it normally without adding a good number of extra levels and really trying to find something to exploit it with. It's a weird shame when it comes to the fight, because like the whole encounter with the thing is pretty epic, honestly. I thought like the music and everything was really good for it, but it's just the final fight was just really blah. Very blah. And with that, the world's destroyed. Well, you stopped this evil god thing from destroying the world completely, because you all survived with quote-unquote possible other survivals. The world was massively ravaged in this encounter and its presence being brought forth into the world. Now, I don't know if Arc the Lad 3 is a direct sequel. I imagine if it is, it takes place far in the future. And that would probably make sense, because my understanding Arc the Lad 3 has this very kind of like continuation of the Wanted kind of system. So it could be kind of more of a wilderness kind of environment, but I don't really know a whole lot about Arc the Lad 3, so that would be something we would have to discover one day when we get to play through that one. But you're sadly left with two of the main characters passed away, and the cast having to see if there's any survivors and to put the world back together again with whatever survived the horrifying calamity of the world. Now, to be honest, considering the game is called Ark, like as in like Noah's Ark, like it's probably not absolutely shocking that something that happens in Noah's Ark kind of happened in, well, the game, because I mean it kind of goes through the same kind of beats that like humanity and shit is like super greedy and destroying the planet and shit. So I mean, to be honest, I can't say it's a super shocking conclusion, but it's pretty short and is a bit of a depressing note to leave the game on. But depending on how Arc the Lad 3 handles it, whether it's attached to the storyline or not, could make it still a little bit more impactful, seeing what the future of the world could be like. Was it worth the journey? I mean, I don't hate Arc the Lad 2 by any means. I enjoyed my time with it, even though there were those times of having an enemy fucking dodge and block a bazillion times, trying to fucking stab it a million times after getting about halfway through the game. But it was an enjoyable game until the final boss. As I said, the final boss, I feel like, is just a snore. Because basically all I did is just find a safe spot and exploited it. And if I didn't, it was going to fucking ravage the people who didn't have infinite MP. It's a painful fight, honestly. It's not memorable like Persona 3's final bosses for me. Let's put it that way. But with that, Arc the Lad 2 closes its chapter, and one day we shall get to Arc the Lad 3 and to again bring up Monster Arena. Monster Arena does not have any real plot or anything. If anything, it should be considered non-canon since some of the villains appear in the arena area even after you kill them in fucking Arc the Lad 2. So it doesn't even really make any fucking sense, honestly. So it's just kind of a spin-off game, so I wouldn't worry about in a story way if you're just playing these for story. Just throw that out there as 2 cents. But I haven't finished that yet, but if I ever do, that'll get its own short little video about it, and it's probably not going to be super good. Let's be honest on that. But anyway, though, those are my thoughts on Octolad 2. Definitely can give it a much better stamp of approval of checking it out if you're into PS1 era JRPGs, specifically tactics style games. It may not be as fancy and full of mini job classes like Final Fantasy Tactics and a few of its other competitions that it has, but it's still a very nice and enjoyable game. If it wasn't for the limited fucking inventory system, what were they thinking? I still don't know. But anyway, if you have a comment, please leave one down below. If you have any questions, and if you feel like you learned something interesting, feel free to leave a like. And if you feel like you learned nothing at all, feel free to leave a dislike guilt-free. And until next time, make sure you watch out for that giant destructive energy ball in the sky. You want to be the survival that goes to Octolad 3, right?